This is an executive summary of the best leadership lessons from the book 12 Strong, the declassified story of the horse soldiers. I'm not much of a movie watcher these days, but I love to read a good book. When I heard about the movie 12 Strong last week, I went to Amazon and I bought the book the same day. It was very well written, dare I say even captivating. The book summarizes the recent history of Afghanistan, gives us some details of the 9/11 attacks on the United States, and then tells the story of American Special Operations Forces' initial days in Afghanistan, the fight for Mazar-e-Sharif, and the first American casualties in Afghanistan. The movie is a small vignette of the book, which focuses on the 1st Special Forces Team, or Operational Detachment Alpha, 12 men strong, which infiltrates Afghanistan, links up with the Northern Alliance, and who fight and destroy thousands of Taliban only weeks after the attacks of 9/11. As a man who has had 3 tours and spent 18 months in Afghanistan, I have absolutely nothing but respect for these men. This film has been rated R for war violence and language throughout. I think this is a fair assessment for the book as well. This book is part story, part history. I don't want to summarize the plot of the book as much as I want to give an executive summary of the strongest ideas and the lessons that I learned from it. Let's get started. The book tells the story of the Taliban and the rise to power and abuse of power. They assassinate Ahmad Shah Massoud, the leader of the Northern Alliance. A week later, they attack the United States on September 11th. The Taliban beat men for shaving their beards, burn schools, kill children. They refuse to educate women. Before a soccer game in the Kabul National Stadium, they would publicly execute sinners and cut off the hands of thieves. They rob and kill people, then they move into their house. They would cut open pregnant women and throw the babies in the street. Lesson number 1. There are a lot of bad guys out there, and they're doing some really evil things. The book focuses on how effective the Special Forces team is, how brave they are, what kind of personal sacrifices they make, how they did in a month what the Northern Alliance had not been able to do in 7 years. Lesson number 2. Good, well-trained men can be amazingly effective against the many bad guys of this world. The Soviets occupied Afghanistan from 1979 to 1989. During this time, the Americans sponsored the Mujahideen, who struggled against the pro-Soviet Democratic Republic of Afghanistan. This was all a part of the American Cold War strategy. After the Soviets left, American support to the Mujahideen stopped. Several Afghan factions and tribes then fought for power. The Taliban eventually restored order by taking power and ruthlessly enforcing obedience to their rules. The Taliban and Al-Qaeda eventually sponsored the attacks on the United States on September 11th. Lesson number 3. Power vacuums are always filled, usually by the bad guys. When the Americans eventually made it into Afghanistan and linked up with the Northern Alliance, they fought the Taliban, who were driving abandoned Soviet tanks, personnel carriers, and shooting anti-aircraft artillery. The Taliban even had American surface-to-air missiles, which were given to the Mujahideen fighters 15 years earlier. Lesson number 4. Don't leave your weapons on the battlefield for your enemies to use against you later. Sadly, American leaders did not learn this lesson during the war in Afghanistan, and we are all suffering the consequences still today. The power vacuum that the Obama administration created in Iraq by quickly pulling all forces home gave rise to ISIS. It was discouraging to see ISIS flags on modern equipment. ISIS is now a global threat, having conducted terrorist activities all over the world. Since the death of Ahmad Shah Massoud, several leaders hoped to gain power of the Northern Alliance. This book focuses on 2, General Rashid Dostum and Atta Mohammed Noor. Nelson and his Special Forces team partner with Dostum, while Dean and his team partner with Atta. During the fight for Mazar-e-Sharif, there was confusion about the location of U.S. and friendly forces. There was confusion about the surrendering Taliban and a potential counterattack. Atta and Dostum play each other as both of them have a power agenda. This makes the operational environment exponentially more complicated for the American soldiers. Lesson number 5. If you want to optimize success, you must observe the unity of command. This will help orchestrate and synchronize operations. The book tells of Afghans in the snow with flip-flops. They don't have Thinsulate, they don't have Gore-Tex, they sleep on the ground. Yes, the Special Forces soldiers are stronger, smarter, and way better trained. There's absolutely no comparison. But respect must be given when respect is due. These Afghans are tough. Lesson number 6. Most of us watching this video are so amazingly blessed with comfort and safety. In contrast to the bravery, fluidity, and effectiveness of those Special Forces soldiers, we learn that the American military bureaucracy came in and slowed down the momentum. A few years later, I was serving as the Siege Assotif liaison to the NATO headquarters in Kabul. By that time, every mission to kill or capture a Taliban leader had to be briefed and approved by the Deputy Commander for Operations in Kabul. One night, the Special Forces went on 3 different missions to capture 3 different Taliban leaders. The third time I knocked on the door to wake up the general to get his permission to conduct the mission, he came to the door and started yelling at me. "Why do you keep waking me up?" I confidently responded with, "Hey sir, if you're gonna micromanage the war, you're gonna lose some sleep." Thankfully, he approved the operation and then went back to bed. Lesson number 7. Risk aversion and bureaucracy prevent victory. The book tells us about a Taliban counterattack in Mazar-e-Sharif. The 2 Special Forces teams and their Northern Alliance partners were going towards Kunduz, where they thought that the next fight was going to be. 600 Taliban and Al-Qaeda from the 055 Brigade had surrendered outside of Mazar-e-Sharif and were brought into Dostum's fortress. Also among these 600 Al-Qaeda was the American Taliban John Walker Lynn, who incidentally gets out of prison in 2022. This left a support company, a couple CIA agents, and a few Northern Alliance foot soldiers to provide security for the prisoners. The Taliban attacked and overtook the fortress. The Americans heroically fought and won it back. Lesson number 8. Before you get too far ahead of yourself, make sure you are prepared for a counterattack. Security is always rule number 1. The book discusses how the American war in Afghanistan started. But as we all know, the war has not yet finished. We continue to win every single battle, but are losing the war. This isn't because of a lack of bravery on behalf of the American military, it's because of a lack of competent and capable leadership, civilian and military. Lesson number 9. As soon as you get into a war, you better start writing a good exit strategy. I am always inspired by the dedication and sacrifices made by our military. I just wish we had more leaders who were worthy of their loyalty. 12 Strong is a fantastic book which chronicles the American conflict in Afghanistan. Yet it also focuses on the inspiring bravery and professionalism of the men of the U.S. Army Special Forces. It gives strategic lessons learned for us as a nation, but also gives countless vignettes of personal bravery and excellence. The author finishes the book by praising the exceptional abilities, unconventional ethos, and practical wisdom of the U.S. Army Special Forces. I absolutely recommend this book. Buy it through Amazon or listen to the book for free via Audible. The hyperlinks are below. Thanks for learning, and don't forget to subscribe and share with a friend who also needs to know this.